Hi there. Today, I am going to be sharing with you how I've been able to make aggressive payments towards my credit card debt and what is working for me right now. Hopefully, you will find some of these tips helpful for you if you are also on a journey of paying off your credit card debt. If you are new here, hi, my name is Sydney, and I am not someone with a paid off mortgage or a six-figure portfolio, and I am not living a glamorous FIRE lifestyle yet. However, I am rebuilding my finances by budgeting every single dollar, making sacrifices, and learning how to manage my money better. I live in rural Montana and I work a full time 9 to 5 job, and I'm also currently on a tight budget. My focuses mainly are paying off my debt, increasing my income, and building real financial freedom one paycheck at a time. If you are also in the thick of things, trying to rebuild your finances, trying to make your money stretch, get ahead, and also build a better life for yourself, then I want you to know you are not alone and I am right there with you. So if you want to follow someone who is sharing the real journey, real numbers, as well as the wins, mess ups, and everything in between, then hit that subscribe button and let's do this together. The first tip is to set payment goals for each paycheck. I find this super helpful to have a number in mind of how much I want to put towards my credit card debt. This helps me to then create my budget around the goal I have set in mind. I think it's important to prioritize the amount that you're going to put towards your credit card because that way you can make it a priority and you can pay yourself first. So there's this idea of paying yourself first. And right now, when you're in the thick of paying off your credit card, paying your credit card is like paying yourself because as you pay down your credit card, you are getting closer and closer to your goal of having the credit card paid off. And then once the credit card is paid off, you are going to have more money for discretionary spending or putting towards other expenses and debt. So think of paying your credit card as paying yourself first and have a number in mind that you are going to prioritize putting towards your credit card above all other things. So for me, I know that I want to put roughly $800 to $1,000 is my goal per paycheck. It might not happen every time, but that is the goal I have in mind. And I think it's better to approach it with having a number that you want to put towards paying your credit card rather than just telling yourself you're going to make the minimum monthly payment. I think we all know that when you only make the minimum monthly payment, you are not getting ahead of the debt, especially if you have a high interest rate. Now, for my situation, I only have a 1% interest rate, and I will get into that later as to how I was able to get that. But when you have a high interest rate, you want to get ahead of that debt and make sure that you are paying more than just the minimum so that you're not only paying the interest, but you're paying the principal. So set a goal for yourself. Sit down and figure out, first look at the entire number that you have to pay on your credit card, whether that's $5,000, $10,000. Look at your expenses and see what you are actually capable of putting towards your credit card. And then deciding, okay, what is the time frame as well that I want to pay this credit card off? When you have a time frame in mind, say it's 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, take that total number and divide it by the weeks or months that you want to pay off that credit card. And it's going to give you an idea of the monthly payments you're going to have to make in order to reach your payoff goal. Once you know how much is required to pay off your credit card in the time frame that you want, whether it's going to be $800 a month or your credit card payment is going to be $300 a month, that is then your goal that you need to have in mind for every paycheck or every month in order to pay off the credit card. So that is what I've been doing. I looked at the total amount that I had, which was about $6,000, and my goal was to have it paid off in 3 to 4 months. Now, when I did the calculations and looked at my expenses plus my monthly paychecks and monthly income, I was able to determine based on my expenses and budgeting that I would be able to make roughly $800 to $1,000 payments towards my credit card while sticking to a budget. Now, that brings me to my next tip, which is to use a zero-based budgeting system. Now, I think this one is really popular because essentially the zero-based budget system is set up so that you have to give every dollar a job, and every dollar is being used and allocated towards your fixed expenses or your variable expenses. This is the way I personally find budgeting to be helpful, is looking at what my paycheck is. uh, every I get paid semi-monthly, but I know when I'm going to get paid, which is the 15th of every month and the last day of every month. And this helps me to determine what my expenses are going to be and how I'm going to budget. I will then essentially take my the amount that I'm going to get paid, and I look at my fixed expenses such as my rent, my phone bill, my internet bill, my car payment, and I will see when it's going to be taken out and which paycheck I need to look at, and then budget out every fixed expense. Once I have budgeted out the fixed expenses, that is when I then go into playing with the variable expenses. However, paying my credit card is always a priority as a fixed expense. I almost think of my credit card payment as a fixed expense, knowing that after I pay my rent, after I pay my phone bill, after I pay my internet and my car payment, then I have to pay my credit card bill just like any other bill before any other unnecessary expenses. When you assign every dollar that you're earning to the expenses in your life, it really just gives you so much more control over your spending habits. And that is what I find so much more helpful, because you create awareness around how much you're spending, where your dollars are going. And for me personally, honestly, I used to not have a zero-based budgeting system. I used to not budget at all. The way I used to approach my finances was honestly, oh my gosh, I got paid. Like now I have whatever, $1,500, $2,000 in my bank account. I'm just going to buy what it is I want to buy. Because when I was younger, and obviously in my early 20s and mid 20s, I would just think, oh, I want to buy this skincare product. I want to eat out at this place. I want to try this restaurant. I want to try this coffee shop. I just got paid. Let's go do those things. And I would carelessly and frivolously spend money without thinking about how much money do I actually have, and do I have enough to cover my fixed expenses and then have money left over for variable expenses. Rather, I would prioritize impulse spending and my desires over actually being responsible and taking control of my budgeting and finances. So if you can figure out a budgeting system that works for you, I highly recommend it. Stick to a zero-based budget, because that way every dollar is going towards your expenses and you know how your money and where your money is flowing. When you are working with a zero-based budget, I also recommend using a spreadsheet to track your expenses, or using an app or whatever works for you, and just making sure you prioritize time in your week to sit down and do your zero-based budgeting spreadsheet and expense tracking. I will also drop below in the description my zero-based budgeting spreadsheet if you would like. It is completely free, and this is the zero-based budgeting spreadsheet I've been working off of and just created for myself. So hopefully it will be helpful towards you as well if you are interested. The third thing that has been helping me is to stop impulse buying on Amazon. Now, this one was so hard. I used to spend on Amazon like crazy. This goes back to the way I would approach my paycheck, which was, oh, I want this, I want that. There's these things I want to buy. I want decor, I want makeup, I want skincare. And I would also get these desires from being influenced on social media. And so I would just have a shopping cart where I had a bunch of things stacked up, and I would just click the buy button once I got paid, honestly, because I was like, oh, I finally got paid. I can buy these things. That really had to be cut out of my spending habits and my budgeting, because it was so easy for me to spend a couple $100s on Amazon monthly and to make not just one Amazon purchase per month, but to make multiple. And so that has been just such a huge benefit to stop impulse buying on Amazon, because it is so easy to just click the buy button and have something arrive at your door. And you might feel excited or gratification for a brief moment or even for a few days after you've received the item you've been wanting, but ultimately it is going to set you back on reaching your financial goals and paying off debt. So I highly recommend, first, if it's really hard for you, to delete the Amazon app, and even go as far as to get rid of your Amazon Prime membership if you find yourself constantly impulse buying on Amazon and just buying non-essential items that you really don't need. I actually did that. I got rid of my Prime membership because I also had this weird mentality of like, well, I'm paying for Prime and I get free shipping, so I may as well just order it. That is so bad. Like, that is just such a bad mindset, and I can't believe I was thinking like that. But when you're paying the $14.99 a month, I think it is, if you weren't paying annually, then there's almost like this mindset to take advantage of the fact that you're spending money on Prime in order to get free shipping. And so I had to cut that out, get rid of Amazon Prime, and then delete the app. But now I have almost built the habit of self-control that I can go on Amazon and add things to my wish list rather than my shopping cart. And I also have been able to build the habit of allowing myself to just sit with it and not press the buy button right away. Now I tell myself, do you really need this? I stop, pause, and ask myself, do you need this right now? Can you work with what you already have? Do you actually need another skincare product? Is this an item that you can't live without? And oftentimes the answer is no. No, I don't need this right now. I can work with what I have, and this is not really going to improve my overall quality of life right now. And I've been able to cut back on my Amazon spending so much and just be more cognizant of what I'm actually buying and making more conscientious spending decisions. For tip number 4 is to cut out impulse buying of food and snacks. Now, this one I have honestly improved so much on, and I'm really happy because this is something that's really easy to cut out. If you find yourself impulse buying when it comes to food and snacks, then this is an area that I think is really manageable, because ultimately, if you are on a tight budget and you do need to pay off credit card debt, you should be budgeting in your groceries, your snacks, and you shouldn't be thinking, oh, I'm going to get these groceries now, but later on, if I want to go to the gas station for a food or drink, I can do that. That is something that used to get me, honestly, in a lot of trouble, because I would just crave snacks in the moment and food in the moment and just think, oh, I'm just going to go to a coffee shop and get a coffee and get a pastry. Or I also have a small organic market that has fresh baked goods that are so yummy. And I used to fall into buying their scones and their banana bread and all this stuff, when in reality I could make it at home myself. So that is something I've been working on, is first telling myself that all of those little charges add up. The $3 scone, the $5 coffee, the $6 ham pie, whatever it is that you find yourself spending money on. Also, I just want to say that chips have gotten really expensive. So if you find yourself running to the gas station or grocery store and picking up a bag of chips, or you're just getting an energy drink, all of those tiny expenses add up so quickly. That is easily $10 per run that you do when you're going to the grocery store or gas station or convenience store for snacks and a beverage. That's easily like $10. And if you think about going multiple times a month, you're easily spending like up to $50, maybe even $60 to $70 on going out and getting snacks and a beverage, which you could honestly probably, if you ask yourself, just stick to what you have at home. So for me, when I'm craving something, whether it's a snack, I just have been so much more uh, disciplined in asking myself, okay, what do I already have at home that I can cook, that I can make, and save myself money? Think of it as paying yourself when you don't go out to impulse buy on food and snacks and coffee. Now, I have budgeted each month maybe a small coffee budget when I'm out and about because sometimes I do have to work at a coffee shop. But for me, I tell myself, okay, this is your budget. You have like $10 for coffee. You can get a coffee this time, and then you can get a coffee at the end of the month. But that's about it. I no longer am running to the grocery store, convenience store, gas station to get small snacks and beverages. And honestly, it has saved me so much money. Tip number 5 is canceling all unnecessary subscriptions. That is one of the first things I did when I got serious about budgeting and tracking my expenses was taking a look at my bank statements and seeing, okay, where am I spending money unnecessarily and where am I spending money that I honestly am not aware of? It is so easy, and I think we've all been there where we have signed up for a monthly subscription and then we totally forget that we're being charged for it. And this is such an easy thing to take control over. It gives you a peace of mind and it feels like a small win when you can actually go in, look at all of your subscriptions that you're being charged and cancel the ones that you truly don't need or the ones that you didn't even realize you were being charged for. This way you'll have so much more money to put towards your credit card debt, and honestly, that $10 a month, $25, and $50 a month truly adds up to giving you money back that you can pay towards your debt. Even recently, I fell into the trap of signing up for a free trial of an app for, I think, meditation. And I signed up for the free trial and I ended up getting charged because I told myself, oh, I'm going to go back and cancel it. Well, I didn't get a reminder to go in and cancel before the monthly charges started. And what happened? I got charged. So luckily, I was able to contact them because I saw it pending in my bank account. And I told them, hey, you know what? I forgot to cancel this. I'm so sorry. Is there a way I can get a refund? And they did refund me. So luckily, I was able to save myself actually $150 because they charged me the annual subscription. But definitely, this is a huge, huge money saver because almost everything nowadays is a subscription from your household products to your healthcare or monthly supplements to your pet supplies. Everything is on a subscription nowadays, and it is so easy to get caught up and to get stuck paying monthly subscriptions that you don't even realize. Tip number 6 is to close out your credit cards. Now, this has been immensely helpful for me in paying off my credit card and my debt payoff journey. Now, I don't know if this is possible for everyone, but this is the option that I was offered. Initially, when I decided I was going to tackle my debt, the interest rate was killing me. I think I had maybe 24% interest rate on my credit card. And I was just so stressed thinking about how am I actually going to get ahead when I have 24% interest rate each month being applied. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to make the progress I wanted in paying off my credit card based on my monthly income at the time. So I had heard that you could call your credit card company and negotiate your interest rate. And so I thought, why not try? So I did call and I had Wells Fargo at the time. Well, my credit card is through Wells Fargo. And I asked them, like, is there anything you can do to work with me in paying off my credit card? Like, I'm serious about paying it down, but the interest rate is really difficult for me and it's going to make it really challenging for me to actually pay down this credit card. How can you work with me? Is what I asked. And then I asked, can you lower my interest rate even for an extended period of time, like 3 months, 6 months, so that way I can get ahead? The only thing Wells Fargo was able to offer me, and I don't know if this is the same for everyone, but they told me the only option was to close out the credit card and they would give me a 1% fixed interest rate. To me, I was not mad about this. I was actually really happy about this option. And I was a little nervous about the fact that the credit card was going to be closed out and how it would affect my credit score. But honestly, it didn't impact it that terribly. And to me, it was worth it because all I wanted was to be rid of the burden of the interest rate. The interest rate was accumulating so fast and it was making it so difficult to pay down my debt. So I took the offer of closing out my credit card because I just wanted to be done with it. I wanted to get this credit card off of my chest and to stop stressing about the interest rate. So I closed out the credit card and now I have a 1% interest rate. This could be a good option for you potentially, and I would just call your credit card company and see how are they willing to work with you. Are they willing to lower your interest rate for a period of time to help you get ahead, or is closing out your credit card an option for you, and is it the best option for you? I am not a financial advisor, so I am not telling you what to do, but I'm just suggesting that this could be an option that you could explore, and it might be helpful for you to see if you can get it closed out and get a lower interest rate. I would not have been able to make such a significant uh, impact on my credit card if it weren't for the fact that it was closed out and I have a 1% interest rate. Tip number 7 was increasing my salary. Now, I know this one is more challenging and it's not always possible for everyone, but for me, I just knew that I had to increase my salary. At my previous job, I was an HR coordinator and I was only making $21 an hour. This was so tight for me to live on and just pay my fixed expenses, let alone have leftover discretionary money to do anything else and even put towards my debt. I was constantly behind and trying to get paycheck advances to keep up with my fixed expenses as well as trying to pay down my debt. So I just knew that going into 2025, it was a major goal and priority for me to increase my monthly income. That is why I ended up looking for a new job and I was able to land a new role in June, which I started. I am now an HR coordinator and I am making $65,000 a year, which is a significant increase from previously making $21 an hour. And even though money is still tight and I am budgeting every dollar and there's not a lot of discretionary spending room, I am now able to better prioritize paying off debt and I'm actually able to make an impact on my credit card. This is honestly one way to really help get ahead of your debt is to just increase your salary. And I know it's super hard. Even right now, I'm trying to pick up side work and gig work on Upwork to help increase my salary, which has been really challenging and not easy at all. But it's something that I'm still working towards. And also, I am working at my new current job to also get a decent increase at the end of the year, a merit increase, which my company provides annually. But I'm also just kind of working at my job to even speak to my manager down the line about a salary increase. Lastly, tip number 8, ask ChatGPT for help. So that is honestly what I did. I love ChatGPT for honestly being my personal assistant. That is how I treat ChatGPT is I use it as my personal assistant to answer honestly any questions I have. I used ChatGPT to help get my personal finances in order and treated ChatGPT like my personal financial coach. I gave it a prompt and said, please act as my financial advisor, my financial coach, and take a look at my bank statements, which I downloaded from my bank and gave it like my past 3 bank statements. I, of course, took out all the personal numbers and information from the bank statements and uploaded it into ChatGPT and asked it to please review and look at my bank statements and tell me where I am overspending and where I could be cutting back on my expenses. I also gave ChatGPT a background of my current role, my salary, what I'm bringing home in my paychecks, and asked it to help build out a plan for me to pay down my debt. So, of course, I also shared my current debt that I have and how much I owed, and then my goals to pay it off. And so, this has been so helpful in helping me to stay accountable and also just helping me to have like an accountability partner, which is ChatGPT, as well as making these YouTube videos. But Don't underestimate the power of using ChatGPT to help get your finances in order. It is super helpful. It can look at your bank statements, it can give you advice on how to navigate your finances, how to pay down debt, and how to budget and tackle your expenses. Now, obviously, if you feel like you need to reach out to a professional financial advisor because you have really complex finances, take ChatGPT with a grain of salt, but also you can use it to help you get ahead, which is exactly what I have done. It has been tremendously helpful in helping me to get clarity, to feel like I can actually be in control and take control of paying down my debt and actually make strides. I know this journey of paying off debt is not easy. It is so challenging. It is mentally challenging as well as even physically challenging because the mental load and burden has really just been a lot sometimes and has caused me to feel super stressed and anxious. But I know that little by little, I am making progress. And it's about taking small steps that you can to work towards paying off your credit card and your debt. And it's also about getting back into control of your finances because the way I used to operate was just being very relaxed and not wanting to look at the numbers. It was scary. So I would tell myself, it's not a big deal, and I would get the scaries when checking my bank account. I would be that person that would just see the notification that was saying, like, you just got paid. And I would see the amount that would hit my bank account. And I would start spending money impulsively and just calculate in my mind without actually looking at the real numbers and checking my bank statements and checking and tracking my spending. That was a terrible way to approach it. And so now I feel more in control having a plan in place where I'm actually tracking my spending, I am budgeting my paychecks, and I'm also just building habits that are allowing me to get ahead and tackle my debt. So if you're in this right now and you're trying to pay off credit card debt, you're trying to reel in your spending and get in control of your personal finances, then I hope some of these ideas were helpful and gave you some motivation and encouragement. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen when you decide to take control and to really change your habits around how you're spending. And little by little, you will get ahead. I would love to hear from you down in the comments. If you could please share one thing that has been helpful for you in paying down your debt or budgeting. I think we can all learn from each other, and I always just love reading your comments. Or if you are struggling with something, feel free to comment down in the comments below, and I will do my best to help you, or others can also chime in. And I just love that we are building a community where we're all in this together and we can share our tips and advice for how we are building our financial freedom. If you found this video helpful at all, I would greatly appreciate it if you would give this video a like so that more people can find it. And I would love for you to subscribe and follow along on this journey in real time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.